Hey, how you doing? I hope you're really good today, and it's hopefully going to get a bit better because today we're going to release a new set of videos that will come down the track, and they are going to be called the 2-Minute Tuesday videos. Now, 2-Minute Tuesday videos are a concept that is well received across the YouTube platform. Many YouTubers do this 2-Minute Tuesday video, and what it does, it gives you a video on a Tuesday that's 2 minutes long, and it's maybe a tutorial, it could be an insight to a product, it can be a showcase of something new. So today is a bit of a tough subject. We are going to look at the history of carp baits in 2 minutes. I don't think this is possible. And before I get going, yes, there are plenty of other people that would be so more able to talk about carp baits, so more interesting than me to talk about carp baits. But look, you're stuck with me, so that's it. Where do we start? Right, very quickly, quick history lesson. And why am I doing a history lesson on carp baits? It's been done to death already, or has it? See, the modern day carp angler, most guys don't know what's in a bait, don't really care, and are just quite willing to chuck anything out because they're hoping it's going to get them a bite. I think we've lost in the way we've become in our consumer world, where everything is now instant gratification. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, everything's instant. We want it today, yesterday, not tomorrow. We've lost sight of where we're at. So I want to just bring us back a little bit. So to start it off, let's get 2 minutes on the clock. 1952, Clarissa carp is caught. Big common of 44 pound to Richard Walker, and it sets the angling world on fire. And after that, everybody wanted to be a carp angler. In the 60s, a lot of anglers began to realize that these carp aren't easy to catch, and so they were starting to formulate new ideas on rigs and in particular on bait. And a guy from Kent called Fred Wilton came up with this hypothesis that if you create a food source that has all the nutritional value that the fish requires in one little niche, then you could possibly drag a fish from eating its natural food sources and wean it onto our artificial high nutritionally balanced bait, because they will search out a higher calorific food source. Okay, that was the hypothesis. Now, there is actually an awful lot of evidence, anecdotal and scientific, to prove that Fred actually got a lot of it right. During the sort of early 70s, we saw some real prominent anglers come to the fore, the likes of Rod Hutchinson, the likes of Kevin Maddox, and in the 80s we saw, obviously Tim Paisley and Bill Cotton come forward. And if you ever really want to sort of delve into their thinking and their thought process that have led to the modern carp bait, I suggest you take a look at their books. Hang on, I've got a couple here. Right, first one, Carp Strikes Back. Every carp angler knows this particular piece. If you don't know it, then you've missed out. This is the Bible for carp anglers. This guy, for me, still is my God. He came out with another book called Carp Now and Then, which was a revisit to his original ramblings on bait and techniques. And this was sort of looking back at what he was thinking of in the sort of 70s and 80s of carp food, carp bait, and now what he thinks. Carp Fever, Kevin Maddox. Carp Fever, another sort of institutional book, something that most carp anglers of my age would have been sort of having by their bedside locker and reading up on everything that he said, hanging on to his every word. These two guys probably did more for carping than most have ever done, certainly in the period that they were doing it. And don't get me wrong, there were loads of anglers out there doing stuff that was equal to these guys. They just made it more accessible to the general public. Carp, but Tim Paisley, this was produced. Now, during the 80s, we had, as I said, the likes of Rod Hutchinson, Kevin Maddox, but Tim Paisley and Bill Cotton were doing their own thing, and they were carrying on some of the work that Fred Wilton had gone on with. And they created Nutrabaits in 1986, 30 years ago. And Nutrabaits was based, I'm sure you're well aware at this stage, on the back of the fact that Tim and Bill were creating baits for themselves, were very much down the high nutritional value road, and were creating food sources for their carp fishing, and then started to supply to friends, and it moved on to a bigger and better thing. So, as I said, 70s and 80s, we saw a massive swing into these high nutritional baits. It's amazing how many people have forgotten how the HNV theory was the mother of all theories back in the day. Now, whether you agree to the HNV theory or not, there's enough scientific evidence to show that it is there. Humans are probably the most out of touch species on the planet to their basic instincts. Due to modern day farming, we're able to produce foods and have supply of foods at such levels that we don't have to worry about where really our next meal is coming from. Certain traits are genetically encoded into our system. If you go out on the booze, you wake up with a hangover. Now, the first thing that you'll crave when you wake up, besides some headache tablets, is you'll crave always going to be a fry-up. And there's a bit of science in that. And that's because deep down in our genetical code, our body recognizes the fact that we have had too much sugar ingested the previous day via alcohol, and our body needs to rebalance itself now. And the quickest and easiest way to do that is to intake salt at high levels and fat at high levels. So that craving you get the next day to have a big fry up, while you may be nauseous in the stomach, you still want to eat something to settle it. It's your body actually trying to rebalance the system. We have a massive problem with obesity in today's society. And that's because the basic instinct, the genetical coding in us, is one of humans in their whole evolutionary cycle have gone from periods of plentiful food to starvation, back to plentiful food, back to starvation. And it's been a yo-yo going up and down for many, many moons. Because we don't have that starvation cycle anymore, our body is still genetically wired to always desire and want the highest calorific food that is available to us at any one time. Carp, like any other monogastric animal, there is no set requirement for protein levels within their diet, but their diet needs amino acids, as do ours. And the amino acids are the building block of their whole life force. So their job as a species, as an individual, is to go and hunt out food sources that are going to, satisfy their basic instinct.
2 hours later.
Told you this could get heavy. So there's been a lot of changes over the years where we've seen a move away from HNV baits to people certainly in the 90s, everyone went on to sort of semolina and soya flour based boilies with loads of different flavors. And as soon as the flavor will blow, and they did blow, you'd then just change up the flavor combination and it would instantly start again. And that's because the fish has to eat and ingest a food source. It has to try it and metabolize it or not for it to know whether it's a decent food source or not. And there inherently is evidence, in my opinion, that using cheaper baits and then having to move around changing the flavor combinations to get it to work again is an immediate indication that that food source is not really a viable food source, and the fish don't really like it, because once they cop onto it that it's not good for them, they cease to eat it. Whereas if you take a food source like any of the Nutrabaits Big Fish Mix or Trigger that's been very much tweaked to a high nutritional state, they don't ever blow, they just keep working, and you get repeat capture after repeat capture on the same bait. And so whilst not scientific, it is anecdotal evidence to the theory of nutrition within carp. Look, you will have two camps. You will have the believers in high nutritional value baits, and you will have people who don't really believe in it and are quite happy to use anything and just get on with it. As long as they're catching fish, that's all they seem to really, really care about. The one thing that stood out from the 60s onwards, that anybody who started using HNV baits, the more expensive the ingredients, the more palatable the bait became. The more palatable the bait, the more they wanted to eat it. For me, the big thing about the HNV baits is that because such high quality ingredients are sourced and used within them, I think nutritionally it's a long-term thing. The more they eat of that product, the more they recognize it, that it is doing them some good, but it's not an immediate thing. But I do think that by utilizing high quality products within a bait, the fish are able to recognize the palatability of it. I think the products that we use in these baits are highly palatable, and I think that's a bigger key than even nutritional value. I think palatability for me is everything. I think the carp gets switched on by certain stimulants. They get switched on certainly by certain amino acids that are in the water column. They get switched on by their taste receptors. they get switched on by how quickly the product processes through the gut and metabolizes into their system, and how quickly they expel it and then can feed on it again, because carp don't just feed on the food once. They will eat over and over, and they'll regraze on stuff that they've eaten and shed out. I think it's those factors that really make a difference to the way carp eat. Now, do we really need to know all of this? That's really up to you. For me, I think it's very much an integral part to the journey of carp fishing. I think it's fascinating. I love anything to do with science anyway. And for me, you know, thinking that I could put together a bait that nutritionally is going to fill the gaps where they need it, and they will maybe recognize that. If I use a bait that's nutritionally palatable to them, so that they are stimulated more so than other baits to feed on it, then for me it's a no-brainer. I'm going to use that product. Unfortunately, a lot of anglers today don't do that. They don't use the products that are really good for the fish. They are quite happy to spend a lot of money on the best unhooking gear, unhooking mat. They make sure they have a lot of money on antiseptic products to, you know, look after the hook holds that they've made while catching a fish. So for me, I just think that giving them a food source that's good for them, nutritionally balanced, is going to help them grow both on their skeletal level and on their body mass. That's going to help prevent disease. That's going to help them promote their growth. That's going to keep them in a very balanced style. For me, that's far more important, and something I'm quite willing to spend a little bit of money on. And that's the thing, we all spend money on our fishing, and it's an expensive sport. We know that. But if somebody said to me, here's one bag of bait and there's £1 difference in price between that particular bait and, say, Nutrabaits, I'm going to go with Nutrabaits all day long, because I know what's in it. I know that it's a quality product. I know it's going to give the carp what they need. It's going to be good for them. So this is Gerry. This has been 2 Minute Tuesday. I think we could be in and around the 2 minutes. Maybe not. Keep an eye out for more videos coming down the track. If you've not already done so, please subscribe to the channel, like the video if you like it. And if you want to keep in touch with all the latest uploads that we're going to be bringing you, hit the little bell icon above the subscribe button, and that will make sure that you get all the latest notifications of what we're up to. 2 Minute Tuesday. Catch you on the next one.